scrambling around trying to see what kind of estimate.
I didn't know
if we'd ever put any numbers.
You know, I don't know. I don't. That would be. Very high.
Don't waste any time doing it.
I was gonna say, how come the guys are on this end, and all the women are on this end, I'm not here.
That'd be good.
It's a little bit after 6 o'clock here on Tuesday, January the 31st. We'll call to order this meeting of the Murphysboro City Council. Ask you to all rise.
Dear Lord, you are amazing, and we're so thankful, God, for all the things that you've done for us and the blessings that you've given to us. God, I ask for each person and every family that's represented here, Lord, today. I pray that you'll touch them and guide them, Lord. Father, we never know what is going to come our way, what kind of circumstances or things that we're going to have to face. But we know that as long as you're walking with us and helping us, that we have the power and strength to carry on. And Lord, as they meet tonight, this body, and as they make decisions, and as they think about what to do that's best for our community, we ask that you'll give them wisdom, Lord, beyond their years. And Father, just help them to work together, to trust you, to believe in you. For God, we know that if we put our hands in you, that you will lead us through. In Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Hughes. Here. Alderman Curry-Wixman. Alderman Campos. Here. Alderman Austin.
Here.
Alderman Pittman. Here. Alderman Urbis. Here. Alderman Cohen. Alderman Bastian. Here. Alderman Gladden.
Here.
Mayor Stevens.
Here.
This is the family show.
All right, well, we're getting to our agenda for this evening. We have an amendment, item number 3, we do not have to take part in because of some scheduling conflicts, and so we may see that presentation at a future meeting. We'll go into the consideration of minutes from January the 17th, 2023, and I would entertain any questions or amendments to the minutes at this time. Mr. Burtis.
Mayor, on page 4, the second line, the name Estes, I think should be Urbis, Alderman Estes.
You sure?
I wondered who that.
I'll get that checked.
I think I asked that question.
Spell check or something.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was just a check.
All right. Is there any other amendments to the minutes? Motion to approve as written.
So moved. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have consideration of accounts payable. The registers, we have list 532 and 542. Any questions on the bills?
Mayor.
I'll go to Mr. Urbis.
Page 3, the second line, animal control box. Not sure what that is.
Yeah, that was, we got the new animal control truck probably 3-4 months ago, and for the back of it, it's the box. We paid half of it out of last year's budget, and this was a budgeted item on a special line for this year to finish it off.
Okay.
I was thinking of like a box for animals, but I guess it is, but I was not thinking about being on the truck. So.
Yeah, it's a full-size one. It's permanently mounted into the truck.
Ms. Hughes?
Yes, that was one of my questions, so thank you, John.
On page 5, Kyle Tuttle put his CD well. I just want to know who's asking.
Kyle Tuttle says, took a CDL reimbursement. Did he succeed in his test?
Yes, he did.
Darren Mills says that he did pass.
And, okay, what vehicle did you use then?
He used a Jackson County Highway Department vehicle.
He used a Jackson County Highway Department vehicle. We had signed a little agreement with them to use that, and they were willing to cooperate with us.
That's nice. I'd like to never even have a vehicle that would take me. But that's for another part of the business, so
Okay,
something we need to think about.
certainly.
Thank you, that's all the questions I have.
Is there a motion to pay the bills? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us into our committee and commission reports. Up first, budget and finance chaired by W.J. Pepper.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no items under old business and a new business. Financial statements prepared by Scott Evans, budget officer. She hands out to us tonight.
Thank you, WJ. So you had two, you had a packet over the weekend, and I brought one tonight too, so I'll start with what was in the packet. So I had the year-end numbers for all the city. So page 1 is the citywide balance sheet at the end of December. And we had total assets of $26,648,000, and our total liabilities citywide were $12,127,000. So our equities were $14,520,000. And I'm going to skip 2 pages and go to the balance sheet at the end of last year. So if you compare that, we are up about $1.1 million in assets, and we've actually dropped about $800,000 in liability. So the obviously the equity can't help but go up when those two numbers in the formula are the way they are. So we actually had a pretty good year, and I've been reporting the surplus all year in general fund for the most part. But on page 2, I'm jumping back to page 2 now. This shows a breakdown of our income and expenses and our net surplus or loss by fund for the whole year. So as you can see, we did have that $1.5 million surplus in general fund, which will be mostly used up this year with the spending of the ARPA money, but still a very good year any way you cut it. We had a couple
Can I interrupt you there?
Yeah.
Question real quick. On page 2, that's interest income.
yes.
Is that a realized loss or is that?
Even the CDs that we have that are marketable CDs have fluctuations in market value.
Right.
And even though it really doesn't matter to us because we are not in the business of buying and selling CDs, but the accounting pronouncements say that we have to book those paper losses. And so that's what that is. As soon as those particular CDs mature, we get back all of our principal plus the interest, and so in the market that we were in this year with interest rates going up because of the Federal Reserve, as you would know, that puts pressure on existing debt instruments as far as the valuation of them. Right. And so we have to book that. So it on paper it's a loss, but I mean, in cash money, we probably brought in $30,000 or $40,000 of actual interest. It just doesn't show because of that write down in the market value. So, and actually, the last couple of years when this interest rates were low, like ridiculously low, some of the CDs we had from before that were like, 3% or whatever, were actually getting bumped up in their market value over what we actually paid for it. And so you would have seen the opposite effect in previous years. So I hate to do that because it's like, we're not really losing that money, but if I don't, then they give me an audit adjustment. So,
Okay. Thank you.
yeah. So if you look at across the board at the big funds, especially, we did show a profit in motor fuel. partly because we haven't spent a lot of money that we were planning on spending on 7th Street. We got a couple allotments of Rebuild Illinois bonds, which to the tune of about $175,000, so, which all will go on 7th Street, but for at least the top 2022, we had a surplus of $171,000 in that fund. And I'm very happy to say that we actually, for the first time in many, many years, have a surplus in water sewer, which does not happen very often, as we've talked about in the past. Over the past 10 years, I think this is probably the second surplus that we had out of those 10 years. And knock on wood, we just didn't have any major breaks, which is usually the deciding factor that will tip us over the edge, is if we have some major breaks, that surplus can go away in quite a hurry. So that's good. I still think we made the right decision to raise rates going in, especially when Kincaid rate increase kicks in, because we're just always around the corner from a major break. Any questions on the income statements or the balance sheets? Okay. In the last page of the reports in your packet is just our income tax receipt for the month. Very, very good month. I guess there's still some spillover of money flowing into Springfield for state income taxes. I keep thinking that bubble's going to burst one of these months, but so far, I mean, it's probably the best January we've received maybe since I've been tracking this. So through the 1 month we had 105,000 we brought in. So that's a really good start to meet our budgeted goal of $1,050,000 by the end of the year. So always nice to get those nice upside surprises. So the report that I placed in front of you is, if you remember a week or two ago, or maybe two meetings ago, I gave you the year-end numbers for the tourism fund, and it came to my attention today that there was a receipt of tourism tax that had been posted against one of the expenses, so I made an adjustment to fix that, and the number you see above is the true final numbers of revenue and expenses for those particular categories. And so it doesn't do anything to the bottom line. It's still the same $388 deficit that I showed you a month ago. It's just that we reallocated to the proper lines. And just to set the record straight. So, that's all I have.
So, Scott, just so I'm clear, previously we had accounted for the $24,851 as city hotel motel instead of county, and now you're breaking it out differently?
No. So the previous report would have shown about 19,000 of county B&B tax, and the county tourism expense down here would have been about 36,000, and so that revenue belonged up where it is. So because we get 4 allotments every year of the county B&B tax, and there were only 3, and the 4th one was just coded wrong. So we raised revenue and we raised expense. Therefore, no difference at the bottom line.
So there was just an allocation that wasn't included in the previous report because
it was just an error. Actually, it was just an error.
Okay.
So we're just correcting the record straight there. So, which makes more sense because I originally kind of wanted that revenue line was $19,000 versus our $25,000 budget. And I knew there was 3 payments, but I thought, well, maybe the county was a little slow getting that 4th one to us or whatever. I didn't ever investigate that, and then Sandra and Donna found that today The reason why, pigeonhole.
So this is your one mistake for the year, Scott?
Oh, this. No, you're not gonna.
That one for later. Does anybody have any more questions for Scott? Thank you, Scott.
All right, thank you.
And that's the only item under new business and public comment. Hearing none, we can move out of budget questions.
Thank you, WJ. That takes us to building and grounds, and I'll go to Mr. Mike Austin.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no old business under buildings and grounds, and under new business, you have a sheet of paper in your packet regarding the discussion regarding the heating unit at 1818 Walnut Street. And as Mr. Urbis told me today, there is a message on the back, which I did not read. So, do we have questions from the council regarding the heating unit at 1818 Walnut Street?
Should we get another estimate on that? Another bid?
Could we?
Should we, yeah. I just wonder.
Well, at that amount, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. Of course, Boss is who we have a contract with for maintenance, so that's kind of who we default to. But, and I guess it also depends on whether or not we just want to replace the whole thing or just fix it. I mean,
In the back it says repair exceeds 2,000. Anything that exceeds 2,000 will be a 50-50 split, right?
yeah. The park board could move.
No, this is Barbara, may I ask you something?
Sure, go ahead.
According to this, note on the back, that seems to think that there isn't so much, disrepair that you need to do that whole lot in town. It sounds like you're $3,800 to add some lights to it to some kind. So it's a crapshoot, you know that, that's how everyone's doing. So if they're paying half of it, that's only $2,800 to us, so why do we want them to do it?
And it looks like they've already voted to do the repair instead of the replacement.
Yes, that is correct.
So the way I'm reading it, that would cost us $3,400 and then $1,400, correct?
No, it'd be 50-50
Huh?
of that 40.
No, it's 50-50.
I thought anything that,
If there's a total of over 2,000, we split the whole thing.
I understand. I thought we footed the first 2,000.
So it'd be $2,410 each.
Yeah.
Well, did we put a new unit up there before?
Yeah, I can't remember.
Spears? Jason?
Yes, I seem to vaguely remember that. I don't know how long ago it's been though.
I don't either.
It's been years, it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't like last year, was it?
Yeah.
How many units they got up on top, 2 or 3?
There are 2 big units and 1 smaller unit.
Well, if it's gonna go out, they're gonna pay their part. I don't know why we just don't go ahead and get a new unit.
Well, I guess because there's not that much time until warmer weather arrives, would be one thought process, and we could,
Well, I think if you read, he's saying, Neil says that the rest of the unit has still got enough life in it that repairing it makes sense.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
I would suggest we go with the $2,410 each option, and hopefully that could get us by for the rest of the year.
Do we have a motion?
We'd like to make a motion to pay for the repair for $2,410. And, for the city and then the fact we can pay the other part.
All right, we have a motion for the repair of the heating exchanger. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Are there any public comments regarding building and grounds? With that, Mayor, we can move out of building and grounds. Thank you.
That takes us to community relations. I'll run through these items. We have no old business. Under new business, we have consideration of street closure requests. And Mr. Josh Sayer had planned on being here, but he messaged me earlier saying that he was sick, and so he could not make it. He did, of course, want to thank the city council for everything that we have done, and the public works department, everything they have done to help facilitate cruise nights over the years. And of course, would like to see the request approved.
I'll make a motion with granting this closure.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the street closure requests for the cruise nights. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Up next, we have a street closure request for the Oak Street Art Fair. This, of course, has become a pretty well-attended event, ongoing now for several years. Any questions or comments regarding their request? Motion to
I'll make
approve.
a motion to grant it. Second.
So moved.
We have a motion from Mr. McComb, second from several people. Gina, pick who you like.
Okay.
And all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is there any public comment on community relations? Hearing none, we'll go to public improvement, chaired by Mr. Mike Bastian. Mike, do you have anything as chair of this committee you want to bring?
I do not, there's nothing over new, but maybe not anything to add.
All right. Is there any public comment on public improvement? Hearing none, we'll go to public works, chaired by Gary McComb. Gary?
Now, under old business, discussion regarding the cost of the salt storage. Do you have any new stuff on that, Danny?
I did, I found a couple other less expensive options. They don't have the same type of tops on them, but they do have like a galvanized frame. It still requires us pouring walls and a floor. Ballparking, at last year's concrete prices, I figured we could do it for about 25, but apparently the concrete price has gone up about $50 a yard from what we bought the other day, so that's going to be significantly different. It's still less than 30,000. The mayor and I had talked about another option about maybe getting into some kind of a contract with the county where we could keep salt there and maybe pay them a storage fee for it of some sort.
How's that, let me ask you, Darren, how's that gonna work for you? Are you gonna have to run a backhoe out there every time you want salt?
We would have to come up with, all the particulars of it. I don't know, do we use their loader? Do they have a loader guy there? I do know the township runs trucks in and out of there. So I know they don't take a piece of equipment out there, so I'm not sure how it would work.
Are you gonna have to weigh the truck after you load it, so you know how much salt?
I don't believe they have a way to do that, so I'm sure they're gonna say, a bucket of their loader is, a ton or 2 tons or whatever, but I think we have plenty of time to figure something out. And
I just want to
hopefully we're
know,
about done with this type of weather.
so sometimes that gets rough running all the way out there.
I would really rather have something right there at Public Works, but if that's the option that we go with, we'll figure it out.
Well, I think we're getting more in the ballpark that's a little more reasonable, at $25,000, even though you're saying that the concrete price could be higher than that. I mean, when we were talking about whatever it was.
It was over
65,000.
100,000, and we didn't have the option of doing it ourselves. It was contract.
Right.
What about the wall blocks that you considered before? Was that cheaper than concrete? Those,
It is a little bit, yes. And that was still another option of putting the wall blocks in and then just pouring a floor in it. And so that was another option we could go with as well.
no matter how, whatever you do, you're gonna have to pour a floor, and you're gonna have to have it pretty thick.
Yeah. I had figured that at 10 inches, just because of the equipment we were going to have on it, and the amount of salt and, it's going to be on it, so.
That ought to be plenty thick.
How big of a pad are you looking at?
I looked at like a 20 by 30 or a 40 by 40. That was just the varying sizes of the buildings. You could buy a building about any size you really want to.
How big do you need though?
We're gonna get 100 tons of salt in tomorrow, and I think maybe I'll go around and measure it, and then I'll see what 100 tons, I mean, actually what it takes up space-wise.
Yeah.
Because honestly, I couldn't tell you, Mike, as far as, is it 40 feet wide, is it 20 feet? I've really never thought about it that way, we just covered it up and went on, so.
How high do you have to make that thing there to get your semi in and dump it?
I would think it would probably have to be somewhere around, 18 feet. That was, the building that I looked at, I think had a 10-foot ceiling in the center of it. So we were talking about, coming up with the walls another 8 to 10 feet.
Well, as long as you can get him in there pretty far, you can push the salt back with the backhoe.
Yeah.
Or if we end up with a bobcat, that'd be perfect for that. Thank you. There's any more discussion on the salt storage?
Gary? Yeah, I think we need to go ahead and play out with the county and get more particulars on what can and can't be done. Because right now, all we have are some thoughts and a conversation, and if we're gonna be more serious about it, we need to get more definite information.
Well, you can consider too, under that part, if you don't build a salt shed, you're gonna be blowing a lot of gas running back and forth out there to the county. I mean, it's ideal if we get a storage shed. If we build it down where we tore that house down, it would be great. A semi can come down the hill and back up in it. But he's getting 100 ton tomorrow. I hope that lasts for a while. I mean, we'd have to order it again this year.
And this is what we've been waiting on to get from the last snowstorm, so.
Yeah.
See how much, and we've cleared the pad off, so that's all it's gonna be there. So we'll know, what size it takes up, so. I'll have a
Yeah,
better idea.
we can check with the county and see how that works and how it's gonna be.
Who would the contact be with the township?
I guess it would be Kyle Morgan is the one that, I know they go out there and that's where they get their salt, in Somerset Township.
Because I'd have to assume whatever arrangement they have with them is the same arrangement they're gonna wanna have with us.
I would think so.
And so, I think what I will do, and Sandra, please stay on me until I do it, is get a hold of Kyle and ask him what their arrangement is, and then I could bring that back to the council, and we can review it, and if we think it's something worth pursuing, we can have that conversation. If not, then we can, keep moving toward building or buying or whatever.
You may want to talk to Mitch Burdick, that's the county engineer, I mean, I'm sure he knows what the particulars are and if they would even be interested in it.
Well, Mitch said it in a conversation I had with him recently, that they would, be willing to work with us on something. But we were just standing there in the lobby and we didn't get into a lot of details about it. Mr. Irvis?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know, but you got 7th Street right there, so that, I mean, you're gonna be out there salting anyway, so at some point.
We can look at both options and then bring something back.
Okay.
Because it's not gonna do us no good right now anyway to set up something 100 ton of salt on the ground up on the hill.
Right.
The deer don't like us for moving it, because they used to be in that thing all the time now.
Mr. Lee?
Just a thought, perhaps, I think Darren, I actually mentioned to Darren before, was maybe building a smaller salt storage area where you could have some, say 25, 35, 40, 50 tons on site. And then we could continue to kind of therefore we could go out before a storm, before it hits, get it in storage, and it would be right there on property. It wouldn't have to be something so large that you have to put 100 ton in, Something a little small, a little more affordable.
Well, Darren?
Yeah, the only issue we have with not keeping what we need there is the timing in getting it. Because, as a municipality, we're about the last ones to get it. It's gonna go to the county and it's gonna go to IDOT. So, when we call, we'll get it to you when we can get it there. Say somebody like Robbie Gray calls from IDOT, they're gonna get it there as soon as they can, because, they're buying hundreds and hundreds of tons of it from them versus,
Right.
100 tons that we're getting. So it is nice to have, as much as we need, because we probably got about 20 tons left over there, maybe mixed with cinders right now. So we were kind of holding our breath this afternoon, hoping this next storm didn't come through, which I'm glad it did.
Yeah.
Well, it makes more sense to me, I don't know about the rest of the council, to build one big enough that you can get it a couple of times a year, maybe, probably a lot easier to get in the summer if you got a place to store it and have enough stored pretty quick to last you through the
I
winter.
mean, conveniently, it's a whole lot better than, guys, whenever I first started with the street department, we had to go to Shoemaker Drive. If you were working way out on the northwest side of town, you ran out, you're 30 minutes getting back over there, whereas this is centrally located. I mean, that's what's great about having the rock, the patch, everything there, so. I mean,
Right.
Plus on Shoemaker Drive, every time the river come up, you had to
we have
move
to
it
go
all.
get it and bring it back up to here somewhere.
Digital mapping, I'm gonna turn that over to Mike.
All right.
We want to build one bank of lights so we can.
Yeah, we can. Tim called last week and let me know that he'd been at a conference and ran across some mapping software that accomplishes something that we've been trying to do for quite a long time, and that is get all of our water and sewer maps in a digital format.
Always manful in the city. He even knows which ones work. Bob's a pretty valuable guy. Meet Bob. Bob knows the location of every valve and manhole in the city. He even knows which ones work. Bob's a pretty valuable guy. But Bob retires next year. What if everyone on your team had something like this in their pocket? If there is a report of water standing in the street, anyone on your team can pull out their phone, zoom into that area, and see that you do have a water line there on the east side of the road. If you click on it, you can see it as a 6-inch line installed in 1980. And you can see that here's the closest main line valve. But you can also see that someone left a note the last time they exercised valves saying this one wouldn't turn. And if you zoom out, you can see other repairs done to this same line in the past. This is Diamond Maps. It's a cloud-based GIS mapping application designed for the sewer and water industry that works on your computer, smartphone, or tablet. Diamond Maps allows you to map your own system from scratch with the help of our video training library and our Indiana-based support staff. Or if you already have a GIS system, we can transfer your existing data from that one computer in the office into the cloud to get it into the hands of your staff. The two things that make Diamond Maps different are its simplicity and its price. Let's start with simplicity. Let me show you one simple but effective approach to starting from scratch, and then you be the judge as to whether you think you can do this. First, get out your paper maps if you have them. Or get that one guy who's been there forever and knows where everything is. Next, sit down at your computer and go to diamondmaps.com. Click Start Free Trial. Enter your email address, your city, state, and the name of your municipality, and click Go. Write down the password that it creates for you, then click the link to log into the blank map of your community where you can start drawing. First, we need to create some layers to organize the information that we are going to be drawing in this map. To do that, click Layers, then click Add. Then indicate that this first layer is for valves, and click Create. Let's fast forward that same process to create layers for water lines, sewer lines, manholes, and fire hydrants. According to the as-bills, there is a manhole in the center of this intersection. In the picture, you can actually see it right here. So click the Draw button, choose the manholes layer, click the Point button, and then click on the map where you want it to go. Then you fill out the form with any information you know about this feature. You can mark valves and water lines in the same way. You typically can't see your valves in the aerial photos, so you have to estimate their location by saying, it's right about here next to the sidewalk. Or if Google Street View is available in your area, sometimes you can find the valves using it. Even though we aren't using a GPS device to plot these points, the map still stores the precise latitude, longitude coordinates of the points where you click. Optionally, you can use Diamond Maps with any high precision Bluetooth GPS device and mark those points according to their GPS location. To draw your water path of the line. Then click Done when you're finished with this section of pipe. Enter any details that you know about this section of pipe, such as its size and material. Then click Add, and you are finished. Now, it's going to take some time to do this, but if you get some help from your staff and stay at it, you can end up with something like this. By the way, the healthy map is never done because you are constantly adding new assets and making changes. But now, whenever you make those changes, you no longer have to wait a year to get new maps printed. For example, you can click on the line and change its size. That change instantly shows up on everyone else's phone or computer. Getting the location of your assets onto the map is just the beginning. The map now becomes a place to record all your maintenance history for each asset. Every time you exercise a valve, flush a hydrant, or inspect a manhole, your staff can enter a quick note. You can also attach documents to each asset, such as pictures taken in the field, manufacturer specs, or sewer inspection video. All of your staff's collective knowledge in one place. The second thing that sets Diamond Maps apart is its price. Diamond Maps is sold at a subscription for $20 a month for a single user login that allows you to use Diamond Maps on any computer or phone. Or most municipalities purchase an enterprise subscription priced based on population. For example, a town of 2,500 population can get an enterprise subscription for all their.
This was the part that surprised me right here, was the pricing on this. Always before, when we've looked at having our water map put into AutoCAD, we were talking thousands and thousands of dollars to have that digitized. And that would be in an AutoCAD format, which would get it on a computer, but it would not put it on a mobile device in the hands of our workers that are in the field. When I spoke with the representative, we're looking at $80 a month to get this enterprise subscription for us. So for $960 a year, we can have as many employees as we want, have an account, and be able to go in and up here, which I think is a very, very reasonable price for less than $1,000 a year. One of the concerns I initially had was, what if we don't like this? What are they going to do with our data? Our data is stored in a GIS standard format, so if we want to export everything we put in back out, we can do that at any point. It's not something we're dependent on them to do, and then we can import this into any other system. So if we wanted to go with the system that the county is using for their GIS mapping, we could export our data from this and import it into that. Any GIS information that we have or that somebody will share with us, so if the county would share their layers with us, we can import that into this mapping system. I believe the fire chief has GPS coordinates on all our fire hydrants. We can import that right into the system, and from day one, it'll automatically know where our fire hydrants are. I believe the county 911 has a map of all of our fiber optic network that the city and school have put together in town, so we can import that right into this. Tim, help me out here. What do you see for your guys?
Well, stay on the fire hydrants. I mean, just the communication between departments. If Steve was to flush a quadrant of hydrants and came up with 5 or 6 hydrants that needed attention, he could label them in a certain way as attention hydrants or broke hydrants, or however you want to do it. And I would be able to click on this program and just search for those broken hydrants, and it would not only give me the addresses, it would layer the map and show me where they are on the map, and we could go in and try to attend to each one of those. Other than just the obvious, being able to, a lot of times we'll find where a water main is listed or is shown on a map in the road, and we find that it's been replaced and with plastic is in a boulevard. We're able to make those changes right there on the job, which is great for us. The conditions of valves, valve maintenance, sewer maintenance, and not just the obvious benefits to water and sewer. Darren's he needs to create from scratch a brand new map for storm sewers. There's not one that exists in the city of Murphysboro. There's not one map that exists for storm sewers. So he has to create. That's something he wanted to get done. This gives him that opportunity to do that, and he can work on it daily. Like if he finds something new, he just clicks on the app, goes to it, and makes these changes, and it's saved there. I think they told me that they back this up twice a day, every 12 hours it's backed up. So if they were ever to, someone was ever to make a mistake, I don't think they can, but if they could, or did, or a disgruntled employee wanted to zap your information, it's just a matter of them calling them up and they get it right back to you. I was afraid when I brought this, I think Sandra actually brought up the thought that it could put us at risk. But considering that they do store this information off-site on their servers, which me and my crew, we would just log into their server and access it that way. So the city's not at risk, putting our servers at risk.
And I think Tim and I would like to ask permission of the council to pursue getting a subscription to this and starting to build this mapping software.
Mayor, this is Barbara. May I ask you a question?
Sure.
This is a minimal amount. I think it's wonderful. But I guess my question is, do you sign a contract for a year? If you hate it, can you just get out of it?
It's paid as a monthly subscription. Most municipalities will just sign up for a year's at a time, and so we wouldn't be obligated to anything more than the $960. And if we wanted to walk away from it, we would still, we wouldn't be obligated to anything else.
Let me ask.
Okay. I didn't know if they required like a multi-year contract or something, so
No.
that answered my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Let me ask you this, if we get into it and find out that we really like having the mapped utilities, but we don't necessarily use the change portion of it to where the guys out in the field are making notes and doing that kind of stuff, after, can we then, once we get everything mapped, download that data and have it on our file here and not continue that subscription?
We could export the data out of it and then import it into some other GIS system if we wanted. One of the things as we were talking that I don't think's been mentioned yet, 2 o'clock, Tim might get an emergency Julie locate to come locate our water and sewer lines and fiber optic cable if we've got it. And right now, they've got to go to the office, look at a paper map, maybe take a map book with them and go out there and try to figure out where stuff is. With this, it'd be as simple as calling it up on their phone, saying, here's the sewer line, here's the fiber, here's the water. So I think that advantage of having it on an iPad, a phone, whatever, whenever, I think for this price, it's a wonderful deal.
If you have a lot of, which hope we don't, but if you had a lot of water main breaks or something where he had to find a valve at night, it's going to overpay for itself. I mean, if it saves him an hour a night,
Yeah.
especially if he's got 2 or 3 guys looking for a valve, you don't know where it's at, and I'm sure there's a few valves that Tim don't know where they're at.
Well,
Sometimes some of them are blacktopped over.
There's not very many. Yeah, on this, if you could click on the valve, you're talking about the lost valve, and if we found it previously, we could actually, you click on it, and it would bring up a little side note thing, and there'll be a description in there that you can read the description. It will tell you even the diameter of the pipe, it will tell you of the valve, it will also tell you the description of the valve location. I'd also add that one of the questions that came up in a conversation with Ben, who was one of the creators of this, was how do you use this for code enforcement, et cetera. And he said you actually can. You can, because all the houses are there, you're actually to click on the residence and you can actually note at each one of them, and you can set reminders, and you can do the same as the search bar. If you want for tall grass or for whatever code violations you might have, or however you want to enter it in, it could be used for that. I mean, we could at least try it to see if it would work for Charlie's case. As well as some cities probably have smaller cemeteries than us, but they use it for cemeteries. You're actually able to if you know who's buried here, you can click on that square and the cemetery is laid out, and it'll give you the information of who's there and what the dates are.
I would entertain a motion to move forward with this.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Just describe for 1 year. Is that what we're motion?
Yes.
Is there any public comment on public work? Hearing none, we can move out of that now. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. We'll go to Public Safety Chairman, Mr. Jara. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mayor. We have no old business, have one item of new business, fire department statistics. Chief has that on our desk here. Talk about it.
Yeah. I do every year, breaks down our responses and gives some totals. In 2000, and 315 of those were fire. We responded. And there was a lot. Equipment, 20 or protected property. Mutual. Request 40 times. And then the breakdown of our response times, or the time. We have to put on additional equipment for fire calls, and then five minutes, 51 seconds for fire. Still national standards. On the train, the guys achieved 18 new over the year, and just one shift. And one of the people involved in the crash had to go to the hospital, and they had a car, and they took it upon themselves to load up their groceries before the car got towed, took them to the person's house, made contact with somebody, and so they didn't lose all their groceries. I just want to mention that, you know, that's not something we normally do, but I was proud of them for doing that. So if you got any questions, to answer them for you.
Chief, what's our agreement currently with the Southern Illinois Airport?
We are through the airport. Carbondale City Fire has a contract like we do with the airport. They have a contract with SIU, and they respond to SIU buildings out there, which is your transportation center, the helicopter lab, and a couple of the hangars. Everything else owned by the airport, including the National Guard Armory, is our responsibility.
I noticed on the list that there were 3 aircraft standby calls. It's obviously a small percentage of our calls, but
yeah. And
and it's what they call an Index C aircraft. I think it's over 35 passengers or something. They have additional suppression apparatus on the field when those aircraft land and then when they depart. So we go out there, and we're out there usually for half an hour, 45 minutes, waiting for that aircraft to land and the people to get off, and then we go back when it goes to depart and stand by. We assist the airport. The airport authority has rescue firefighters, but they are also their maintenance personnel, so they're not always there. They're obviously not there at night or on the weekends, and so we are the initial responding agency.
I just wondered if the new commercial aviation expansion with the additional large aircraft, although they wouldn't necessarily have, large numbers of people on those craft, they'd be coming there with, I guess, a pilot and a co-pilot maybe.
Yeah, it's an index, I guess that's an index D, and it does not meet the criteria to require us to respond out there for that.
Okay. All right.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I asked you this last year, and it's been a year ago, but the unauthorized burn, is that just me going out and starting a fire in my backyard and getting out of control?
Yep. Grow on your property. Can't burn processed lumber, can't burn trash. No. Report, but that's all part of that. It's what the initial call is that we respond to.
Is there any fine to the person whenever you get out there to them? Is there?
If you can and can't burn, there's a requirement to call police so that we know who and where it's occurring, and then they also have to have means of extinguishment immediately available, that type of thing. On the second time, if we've given a warning before they are issued a citation, it's a city ordinance violation.
So next year, on this time again, whenever I ask that question again, just tell me we've talked about it before. Well, thank you, Steve.
No problem.
And then the other part to that is they call me and they say they weren't burning anything that they shouldn't have been. Anyway.
All right, thanks, Chief. Any public comment?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Hughes, do you have anything from personnel?
No, sir, I don't. I was not there business, no new business. If there's public comment,
I see none, so we'll go into,
I think we can get out of that. Thank you.
thanks, Barb. That takes us to the mayor's report. First, we have the consideration of appointment of Gary Miller to the Southern Illinois Airport Authority Board. Gary, I appreciate you coming to the meeting. Gary, of course, comes to this appointment. Dave Hardry was with us at the meeting, and he has stepped down. And I think Gary's highly qualified as he served as an attorney for the Airport Authority for a number of years. He knows a lot about the operations there. So, Gary, do you want to say anything about your interest in the appointment?
Well, Gary Schaefer is such an inspiring person to work with, and I'm looking forward to going home back to the airport again and helping out there. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing it, basically. He asked me to come back, so
Sure.
he's a hard guy to turn down.
Yeah.
I will make that motion, Mayor.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to appoint Gary Miller to the SI Airport Authority Board. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You'll be cheaper this time too, Gary. You'll be cheaper to him this time.
Yeah. All right, well, congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
And
Appreciate it.
thank you for your willingness to continue your service there. We appreciate it. Up next, we have the update on Clearwave, and I handed out right before the meeting a particular packet labeled infrastructure permit application. The final page of that is a copy of an email from Richard Blake sent me today with some additional amendments that he would like to see added to it. This all, of course, comes out of the fact that, as you all know, Clearwave and their project has been very problematic, and we've shut them down. Working at the city, we're going to have to get a permit process together that they would have to abide by before they could start again. This permit was crafted through meetings that I had with Tim, Charlie Isert, Darren Mills, and myself, where we talked about the various distances that we need to see abided by, and those are included on page 2 of this on the underground requirements, the number of inches above, below, or to the side of various infrastructure, whether it be a sewer main or a water main or a water service or a catch basin or whatever. The cost on this is $100 per permit, and the way that this is crafted, it would allow for, I believe, I'm trying to make sure, 2,000 linear feet of boring per permit. So this would help us, I think, control what is going on in town, because we're only going to have one active permit at a time, and they're only going to be able to go so far until they're going to have to stop, come back, and say, okay, we have completed this section. That will give us an opportunity to go and make sure that what has been done is been done in a workmanlike manner, and then we can consider their next request for work. And so that's the summary of it, and I'd entertain any questions about it that anybody may have. Mr. McBride.
I'm still sitting on over $5,000 worth of invoices related to the Clearwave project. Could we incorporate some language, and I've actually spoken to Richard about this, that requires them to pay up, and then if they determine that it was one of their against them to recoup, but ultimately it's their project. We need to be made whole on that, and then any further damage per permit they would need to take care of before issuance of another permit. Would that be some possible language that we could get in, put into that as well?
Attorney Blake drafted to me today language that said, in the event the Murphysboro Fire Department is called by any person in response to any of the work performed by any applicant or any of its contractors or subcontractors, the applicant shall be responsible for payment of all expenses of the Murphysboro Fire Department incurred in responding to the call. It gives the revised ordinance section after payment by the applicant. So yes, that language would be included as Mr. Blake had drafted.
And I believe with Chief McBride's comment, and as we briefly discussed before the meeting, I think we should add language that does state before that language was more so directed towards future calls by the fire department. I think we should have some general language saying if there are any outstanding debts owed by the applicant to the city, that those shall be paid before issuance of a permit. So maybe some further language to that in that regard should be added.
I think everybody's in agreement with that. Mr. Pittman.
On a job like this, so would Clearwave be the one applying for the permit, or we would want the subcontractor to apply, correct? That way we have their contact information and their, they can put on there that their scope of work is for Clearwave, but.
I think the idea was the second, like the contractor, because therefore we would know who's working, what their insurance is, they provide insurance and their any kind of licensing that we might require. And then if it was if it was on that permit that there was a driveway damage or a sidewalk damage, that would be the company that we could contact to come back and make a repair.
Right. And then if they have some agreement with Clearwave that Clearway will cover those costs.
Clearway would
They
be
can
the
get
secondary
that money
enforcement
recouped from
of that, you know, we didn't get satisfaction with the contractor.
Did they have anybody on that crew at all to speak English?
I was just gonna, what if we need to add that?
Yeah, it's, I mean,
Well, who to call?
you stop to talk to them
Oh,
and,
yeah.
you know, speak English. You know,
That
I mean,
particular crew's been.
and you know some of them can speak English, but they always get that no Saturday.
Well, there was one contractor, 3LM, I think it was, that was employing a lot of folks who had difficulties communicating. And I am told, and I don't know whether I believe it or not, that they have been terminated from all the projects that were part of what Clearway is doing. So I don't know, we'll have to see what happens going forward. But on the front page of this permit, the way that I would see it being filled out would be the top box would be Clearway with a project title and a contact person for them, and then their subcontractor would fill out the portion below as well. So I think we would have both on each permit. Mr. Shepherd?
Are there provisions in there for them to provide as-built drawings? And this is a problem we've had with Clearway in a lot of our towns, clients' towns. I mean, you go back 10 years from now and nobody knows where these lines are. I realize there's a Julie, but...
Well, they did provide us this time around, I think the mayor had requested, we've got a page of maps that we printed out in color, that we do have that on file or on email.
Yeah.
Now you said as-built, so you're saying resubmit them after the fact
Well,
and
once
see if
it-
they
yeah,
match?
because I mean,
We could require that.
you can see them all over town changing locations where they originally intended to put it, but they couldn't for some reason.
Right.
Well, I mean, we can ask for it. I don't see any reason why that would be an onerous request.
But we're still asking for it in a lot of towns that they swore they would give us. You know, you had a meeting before they started and they said they would do that, and we're still waiting on them. So I mean, it's just, you know, if there's
If you got that, you could put it in that program that he's
Yes.
gonna, yeah.
Yeah,
That's
well,
what I was just
true.
saying, we could
Yeah.
build it as a layer there.
Yeah.
Richard, just include language that they will provide a as-built set of drawings, you know.
At completion of
Yeah.
Before the next permit's issued.
Yeah, that's right. They get 8 permits in, you'll never see them probably.
I mean, I don't know what the time, would be for them to get those prepared.
Well, they're gonna have a lot of permits because 2,000 linear feet sounds like a lot, but it's not. It's probably about what can be done in about a week's time, based upon what I researched in terms of what those boring machines are capable of doing. And so I'm suspecting that at best, they'll be able to have a permit a week if they're doing a good job.
Well, and on this, Will, if you go out, you've got a spec on our line. If our line is down 2 foot and they gotta be 3 foot or 4 foot below it, if our crew goes out and cuts that line and it's not to the spec, then you don't have to pay for the damage to their line.
Right.
Because it has to,
we would be able to chase that permit back to make sure issued after, we adopted this new policy. And if it wasn't 2 feet below or 4 feet above or 4 feet beside, and we hit it by accident, I suppose, yes, you could say, this wasn't put in as contracted.
because that used to happen with the phone company. They have a cable that's supposed to be 42 inches deep and somebody cut it at 2 foot. They send them a bill and they take them to court and pull their spec out. So you don't have it to your spec. We're not paying for no damage, and they wouldn't have to. It's just something to think of if you ever cut it. Take pictures of it, see where it's at.
I saw Don had his hand up and
Just a curiosity question, Charlie, since the last meeting, has anybody from Clearway been to your office?
they've called me every day.
So
I was just curious if they had.
I've had discussions and we've approved permits with the actual Clearway crew. So there is a crew in town that is employed by Clearway. They're the Clearway bunch. They're not a subcontractor. So they have been doing a little bit of work, but they have always came in first, submitted plans. We sit down, we have a meeting, we discuss the best route for the fiber. And then, we never had an issue with them. They get the permits properly, they complete the job, they pour the concrete back, and they're out of there within a couple of days. Not to be confused with the subcontractors that we've had the headaches with. Yeah.
Okay, so there, since our last meeting, Clearwave has been in town, but it has been the Clearwave company, not somebody representing.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Debbie Jane?
I know one of the things we asked for at the last meeting was any repairs or corrections of things done incorrectly by these subcontractors previously. Are we aware of they addressed most of those issues? Like, have we had any communication with them on that?
No, I think that in that last discussion, I think Richard brought up the fact that if whatever was done before policy, I don't believe that we can go back and make any.
No, but I'm talking about the problems that we had that affect, not necessarily our requirements for are they deep enough, but where they didn't to what it was previously before they got there and that kind of stuff.
Damages, yeah. I think most of our damages were because most of the lines that they hit from ours was the depth was wrong, or we had the line mismarked because we were going on map, and they were unlocatable lines like PVC lines that didn't have tracer wire, so we had to do our best guess. Or service lines that might have been cut that may have not been where we thought they were. So I guess you would say they were 50-50 on whether or not it was their fault or our fault. And most of that's been satisfied. And then they did work last week and the week before, even after we put a freeze on them, because they were only going back and cleaning up the spots, that they had tore up. They weren't making any forward progress. They were just going back and kind of cleaning things up. And from just driving around, unless someone else knows of anything, I can look tomorrow and try to catch up, but I think they're done. I think everything's strawed and everything looks back. I'm sure there's some driveways that we're gonna have issues with customers. And we have a contact with Clearwave to help satisfy those customers.
All right.
Mayor?
Yes, Ms. Hughes?
I'm sorry to interrupt. I do want to commend Clearway to some extent, because I know the whole historic preservation area, they have been back down to cleaned up the dirt and have been covered up, planted grass, I guess, and covered with straw. I will say that they have come back into my neighborhood to repair some mess and stuff they left.
Good. Well, I'm happy to have that report.
No, they have done it also 16th Street. Everything has been corrected over here since the beginning. They have their mishaps, but I guess they're moving forward. They left everything pretty much complete on this.
Good. Well, I'm happy that they're fulfilling those requests. Is there a...
I do have one other matter, Mayor. If noted in the email that I sent, Mayor, I don't know if city council members took note of it, that for the city council may want to consider amending the city code to put in some more comprehensive provisions regarding use of the city right-of-ways. What the city has right now deals with excavations in the street, excavations or tunneling in the streets for right-of-ways. The permit that's been drafted, it goes further than addressing excavations in the right-of-ways and below. It also addresses attachments to poles and above-ground facilities. Reviewing our city code, we don't address that in any way in the city code. The Illinois Municipal League has prepared a model construction of right-of-way ordinance, which is far more comprehensive than what the city has. I don't know if the city council would be interested in our following up with that and putting it together something that further addresses what the further type of facilities that there could be.
Well, I had planned on sending it out to the rest of the council. I only saw it in the attachment today. And when I opened it, I realized it was more than I could.
And that may be something to address by, further meeting for further discussion.
Yes. So I suppose I need a motion to adopt this permit pending the amendments discussed.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I want to thank Tim and Darren and Charlie especially for meeting with me and giving good time and feedback. That really helped make it come together, especially Charlie for formatting it and putting it all together. All right, that takes us to council member requests, and I will start with Mr. Austin.
Mayor, if I could have just a second, I got a call a couple weeks ago from the superintendent of the school district, Annie Evers, about an issue on Edith Street, which is the south side of the gymnasium. I called Darren. Darren had told me he had some history with that before, went and took care of the problem immediately, and within 12 hours the problem was resolved. So I just wanted to thank Darren for his work that he did. So I wanted to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you, Mike. On the phone, I'll go to Ms. Hughes.
Thank you, Mayor. The only thing I have is I would like to thank Tim and Harold Shepard for their quick action with the problem that I had at my own home with the unit drive clean out process. And thank you so much. The people that are working on that were very, very quick to respond and very open with anything you need, we can clean it up for you.
Thank you very much.
I commend that company and thank Tim and thank Daryl for your quick response.
Thank you for that comment, Barb. Mr. Bastian?
I have nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Ms. Curry-Witzman?
They were nice after I.
I'm happy to be here.
Okay. Mr. Fetner? Mr. Urbis?
The stoplight that was knocked down on 20th Street in Walnut, I guess that's the state, are they gonna?
That's actually ours. I have spoke with Brown Traffic about that 2 different times. That's the company that usually puts that up. Both times I've got them waiting on parts. I'm not sure where these parts are coming from, but we can make sure and give them another call. They've been in town and replaced a couple of them.
I just skipped over Gina a moment ago, Clerk Hunziker.
Oh, that's why you were, no.
That's why I was
I'm good.
looking at the show. I figured you didn't have anything.
No, I know, thank you.
WJ reminded me. Oh, okay. I'm trying to get this all straight here. I'm not doing a very good job. Ms. Campos?
Hey, thank you. No, just, nothing, just to see that the progress on the 7th Street construction it's looking really, really nice.
Yes, it is.
Yep.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Urbis?
Already did.
Mr. McComb?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Glad?
Back on 7th Street, could you give us a ballpark estimate here or where they are? It looks like they were
Yeah, I mean,
pouring concrete.
well, they are pouring concrete on once they get all the street poured, I think they're doing this a little differently than what we normally do. That usually gutters are all poured and then they fit the street in it, but I think they're coming back at the end and pouring most of the gutter work, so it's moving along, weather dependent at this point right now, temperature dependent.
I do want to say that earlier this week, I got an email from a resident that lives on 7th Street. She is works at the Carbondale Hospital, and her husband also works at the Carbondale Hospital. She was very concerned that whenever they were about to do the portion of the road in front of their home, that there might be a time such that they couldn't respond to an emergency medical call that they would have to respond to. And I got a hold of Dave Murray, and Dave said that they have been intentionally pouring up to halfway on all the driveways and then waiting for that section of concrete to cure so that anybody can come in and out. They got to be a little bit more careful about it. And then once that's cured, they go on and they pour the second section so that nobody at any time is ever totally without access to their driveway in the course of it. And so Dave immediately called the resident, explained that to them, and then they called me back and were thankful for the quick, communication. So I appreciated their work on that. But anyway, we'll go to department head request, Attorney Blake.
Nothing to report.
Ms. Ripley?
Nothing.
Mr. Evans?
Nothing, thank you.
Chief McBride?
I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Bellemare?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Manwaring?
Just want to make the council aware that on Wednesday, February 15th at 6 o'clock, Service will be conducting storm spotter training at the high school and the library. So if you know of anyone that would be interested in sitting through that session out there to become a certified Skywarn storm spotter, it's February 15th at 6 p.m.
Thank you, Brian. Mr. Schiffer?
I have nothing, thank you.
Ms. Lally?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Lee? Mr. Iser? Mr. Gladson? Mr. Mills? All right, I'll take a 5-minute break to review some executive session minutes.
Yeah, sure
I was making that assumption since we're identified it as.
Yeah, it's there on by the.
Oh, yeah, no, so that's.
Yep.
I made assumptions that I got some out of it.
A week or two ago until.
Be locked in.
No problem.
Looking for that far away, but I told you we were at it.
To the most intelligent person I know, how's that?
Yourself, right? I started thinking about this.
Yes.
Brought it up.
My right is
Right there. That's what all.
I started looking 6 months ago. I was actually on board. 22, the year was closed. 2023. We're on there and we're watching January 1. Oh, they changed it. So now it's January 15th. January 15th came. They haven't changed it. We can't get hold of it. There's no update. So just by talking to Bob, it sounds like. So, I mean, I'm ready to do it. We're probably going to have to pay for it out of our own pocket anyway.
Hey, Richard.
Happy birthday, Gina.
Credential stuff.
He's got,
Re-registered her name pretty quick. It was a couple weeks, whatever.
Yes.
And then the next step we did was, she wanted to move that over to me as a growth problem, so that didn't work out.
I don't think that was like the storage of the, yes.
I said, hey, it's already there, and she's like, are you kidding? She said, we worked on this for months and months. She said, and then when they transferred to your company, it took 2 days, and I said, you know, what?
But you're talking
So
about
apparently these
software that
brokerages
went
have some kind of like,
they need
secret
to
handshake
download
that they
automatically how to
work
get so many feet away
very
from the
well
server.
with each other, but just not with the average person like us.
Yeah. We need.
You know?
So that's
So anyway,
stuff we'll
she's
be
happy.
talking
I think all she likes now is that vehicle. I think she's got that under control too.
Educated a little bit.
She
We just need to, we were going to go over that. Thank you much for your help.
And here's another thing, our cameras, we're the only ones in the county.
Write stuff off with a adult pencil.
County bought it the same thing
Makes it
we did.
suspect.
Back
Yeah,
in the
right.
forever, got there, and they all checked out, and they got rid of theirs.
How you doing?
Yeah, I'm about that. Well, we look at this, those are just history. We'll piece them together, and Bill Myers, just we can. So when the last one's done, the last one's done.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a huge cost for that. You know,
Kids sleep good, they sleep like.
yeah, I think me and you might be able to turn into 30,000 without using them.
4:30 every day.
For the budget in
I wanna have
2025.
like some time to.
Hey, we're already on it, baby, we're heading.
Yeah, I guess so.
We don't let much grass grow on this deal.
Yeah.
We gotta try to keep up with the Joneses.
Hey, Brian, can you email me that link to that weather thing? I think that's how we did it last year. Because it was canceled last year because of the ice.
The ice, yeah.
I couldn't make a replacement day or something.
Yeah. Twice.
Yeah.
So,
Ironically, because of the weather.
yeah.
Or, a dozen times a year, there's something in there. Worth having.
Get on line. Catastrophe or so and so.